What's up, Rokk?
Let's bring the boy in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Rokk. Hello. I've got a bit of a dodgy mixing desk tonight, so audio is actually coming straight out of the speaker. That's right, isn't it? You don't mind that, do you? Only I couldn't get it to mix properly, so I thought, well, it's a chilled sesh. This, isn't it? It's a chilled sesh. You're amongst friends. I'm amongst friends. So yeah, apologies for that. Let me know if you can hear it. Okay, I'll turn it up. I'll turn it down. I don't mind. Whatever you guys want, that's what we'll do. So what do you think to this look? This is quite cool, isn't it? We got the little logo going up in the corner there. We got some little sort of twinkly stuff going on. It's all looking good. And I got you guys in the chat there as well. There you go. We've got Alex. We got Lee. We got Dave. We got Ty. See, I'd like to call you all by your first names. I'm not into this avatar stuff. Not when we're doing this chill out sesh. What else we got here? We've got some lovely folk. I think I've probably mentioned. Oh, and Sean Wellnock, of course. How are you, Sean? You were here very early on. Good to see you guys. So let me know. Can you hear the music? Do you want to hear the music? Is it too loud? Too quiet? I don't mind. Whatever you guys want to do. Personally, Alex likes it. That's good, as long as you're happy with it. It's just, a bit of ambiance in the background to chill midweek as they do. And you can hear me okay, hopefully. I'll turn me up, turn me down. Hello, Ems. Good to see you, my love. So here we go. Wednesday is the middle of the week. What do they call it? The bump, don't they? You can't see the chat again. Wow. That's thanks for that, Ty. I actually had a chat with Restream about that this morning. I'll get rid of it because they said, oh, well, when it's over, when your thing's over, let us know and we'll pop in and have a look and see what's going on. Which is all well and good, but I kind of want it now. So don't worry. It's not a problem, because what we can do instead is we can do it the old-fashioned way, like this. There you go. Stu, how are you, my friend? Good evening, buddy. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up. Appreciate that. Stuart does a fantastic podcast, by the way, Renaissance Man. I love listening to it. It's one of my weekend chills. And there's a couple of guys, and they talk about their world. I really love it. It's great. Well done for pulling that one off, my friend. And you're more than welcome to catch the on-demand. There might be the odd advert in there, though. I just have to warn you. I don't have a lot of control over where Google puts them. But if you're paying premium, then they won't show up, will they? So it'll all be good. So you're getting the chat now, but it's old-fashioned chat. I'm sorry about that, guys. I did... there was another new feature that I spotted when I came in to Restream tonight. And it was, they've added background music. Although I couldn't get it to work either. So who knows? I don't know how it works. But it's, yeah, so supposedly you tap a little button and you get three choices. You can upload an image, you can stream from another app like OBS, or you can play background music. And I thought, awesome, because I can't get them. I don't know why, but for some reason, I'm using the Elgato mic, which you can just see his little head up here. There he is. That's what's up, Rokk. And for some reason, it's not mixing in my stuff with the way it should do, but that's okay. It's all good. Unatrix, how are you, my friend? Thanks guys for popping in. It's great to see you all. Well, look, this is an AMA, FAK, Q&A. Depending when you were born, any one of those is going to mean something. I was talking to some contemporary friends the other day, and I said, yeah, I've started doing these AMAs, and they were like, mate, there's clinics, all right? If you've got any kind of dependency issue on them AMAs, best to go and talk to your doctor. I'm like, no, it's ask me anything. FAQ, Q&A, whatever. So it means ask me anything, Alex. You're young enough, mate, that you shouldn't be asking. You should be the man out there telling the world what an AMA means. But it means ask me anything, as Dave says. I prefer Q&A. Well, see, Q&A is I guess a Q&A is, I got some answers to your questions. I suppose it's the same thing, but it's a bit more formal. FAQ, frequently asked questions, is another one for you. But again, that tends to be top 5 things that people ask about something. You know, how to rear a baby elephant or whatever, in a nice way. But AMA Ask Me Anything, I think it fell out of Twitch. I think it was a Twitch thing originally. It's kind of been taken up. So Cloud Gamer 201 saw some PlayStation games for Verizon Gaming. Now that's obviously a thing for you in the States, CG. We don't have Verizon outside of the US, I don't think. We certainly don't have it in the UK. But I think what we're going to see anyway is a raft of cloud platform providers, game streaming providers coming up, because of course all the networks, the backbone providers, the infrastructure guys, they're all out there doing it, aren't they? Amazon, obviously Google, Microsoft. The only one out of all the big backbone providers, in fact, I think they're one, maybe even the second biggest in the world, that, as far as I'm aware, hasn't kind of put its own hat in the ring, is IBM. Interestingly, IBM have a massive backbone, and by backbone I mean the network to stream all this stuff. Everybody else is kind of looking at their huge data centers and their pipes that they've laid around the world, and they've gone, how can we make more money out of this? And of course, gaming being one of the number one entertainment revenue earners across the globe. It was an obvious one to do. So I'm just kind of I'm so annoyed that I can't. Well, I'm not annoyed because I'm chilled, but I'm sad that I can't get the chat overlay to show up down the side here, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to give it one more little go. They said to me, refresh, and I said, look, if I refresh, I'm going to lose everything. No, you just get a nice empty box, which is not what you guys want to see, is it? I can see that now. So we'll get rid of that. That's a shame. We'll get to the bottom of it, though, don't you worry, in a future episode. I suspect it's part of the same problem as this background music thing, which is a shame. But there you go. It's all right. It's all good. We'll just pull up stuff. I've just got to think about stuff at the same time as talking. So what's this then, 201? It was leaked by The Verge 2 years ago. What, Verizon Gaming? Or have I missed something else? I saw some PlayStation games. Oh, okay, God of War. Well, yeah, of course. The other thing to think about is PS Now, which uses Microsoft Azure, I believe, as its platform provider, as does my company, actually, for most of its hosting requirements. And they're obviously pushing PS Now, which has all of the old PlayStation stuff, all their old exclusives, all the way up to PS4. And I think they announced some more today for the coming month, or this month, one of the two, which looked pretty good. And I think as well, if they didn't, I think it was Game Pass that did, because I spotted Dead Space in there, which I played and loved that game. Have I played? Yeah. Well, so Lee says, hello, my friend. Have you purchased the new season in Destiny 2? I didn't need to, mate, because I bought a year's worth of season pass when it was available. I think it was at the beginning of Beyond Light. So, but I have been playing it. I gave it a little go today, and I did an override with 5 other randoms, as we call them, and that was quite good fun, actually. It was just a relentless kill everything, kill all the Vex, and then at the end of it got some gear, got a gun, I think, and a couple of bits of armor. But the thing with Destiny 2, I think I've said this so many times, when it was early Destiny 2 and older Destiny, I just found it a little easier to kind of jump in on a new. They didn't have seasons then. Well, they did, but they didn't call them that, I don't think. But you'd have, 2 or 3, 4 a year. And they did call them seasons when I think about it. It just didn't have things like the battle pass and all that stuff. But I used to I'd jump in and do and there would always be a kind of continuation of a story in the missions. But I find it all a little bit, you've really got to be into the story of Destiny now. Back in the day, you just needed to know who the main kind of characters were. But don't get me wrong. This is a me issue. It's not nothing to do with the game. It's great that they've advanced the game and they've advanced the story. And if you've been keeping up with Destiny, then I think you're getting rewarded every time, every season. But it looks good. I mean, the first thing you get is an exotic sidearm, which is actually quite useful. Of course, because the way it works with the new seasons in Destiny can progress quite fast. You just have to keep putting on everything that you get. Doesn't matter what color, how it looks, blue, gold, whatever. Just put it all on to every time you go up a level, the next thing that drops will be the higher level. So it's important to do that. But I think Destiny's quite clever anyway, and it knows even if you're not wearing it that what your level should be. So yeah, I did, mate, and I know you've been playing it, but I know you've kind of picked up Destiny 2 again recently, haven't you? So you're working your way through all the kind of previous season stuff to get to the current stuff, which is absolutely the right thing to do, by the way. I think one of the downsides of the revamped Destiny was that they made it too easy to skip a lot of that stuff. And I think the shame of that is that you don't get the full story immersion, which you kind of need to really understand the game. But yeah, good on you, my friend, and thanks for the question. So what else we got going on down here? I invented a new term today, which I was quite proud of. Negs, which was never ending gob-stopping games. So somebody mentioned this morning, I think it was, it might have been The Verge or 9 to 5 or somebody, it was picked up by quite a few people on Twitter, that Ubisoft have said, right, we're not going to put so much money into one-off games anymore. We're going to be putting them into the continuation of storylines. And I'd sort of said anyway a while back, a few places, that was kind of obvious where they were going because of Ubisoft Plus. If you are looking to get people's subscriptions on a monthly basis, you can't have these great droughts of games. Let's say, for example, you've played Valhalla and you've played Phoenix, and then there's a 4-month wait until Far Cry 6, because they're actually saying now by September, I think I read earlier, certainly later in the year. So you're going to go, well, I'm not paying the $14, the $12.99 or whatever it is. I'll drop the subscription and come back. And of course, that's the last thing they want. So it was a fairly easy prediction that they would start to add content like Destiny, like Bungie does, to keep you playing, to keep you cracking on with the subscription. And they've officially and formally said that that's what they're going to do now, which makes every bit of sense. Which is why I think that the Ubisoft subscriptions are a really good investment, because if you like what they do, not everybody does, but if you do, and they're quite canny, them old French fellas, they've tried to cover most genres and they do it well equally. But if you like what they do, then there's something for everybody. And I think it's one of the better investments. I mean, personally, I've been watching The Last Kingdom. I mentioned this on Rock Review last night. And I know that Ray and Callum interviewed one of the main characters who hasn't come into it yet at the point I am in the show. I have to say, I'm loving it. Season 2, as always, not quite as good as Season 1, but it's building. I think it will get there. There are 4 seasons and the 5th one is in development, COVID permitting. So that's going to be coming up. But it's basically Valhalla. I mean, it's the game. It's about the Danes getting a bit fed up with, not being able to grow much over in Scandinavia. So they head down to little old Britain, where it's very green and very temperate. We're very lucky in this country. I know there's that standing joke about Brits moaning about the weather, but actually, compared to further north or further south, it's kind of Goldilocks, it's just right, which means it's a very fertile land, and that meant that it was always prized by other people. It's obviously the Danes, they came in and they wanted some of that. And then later, and we've actually always been invaded as a country. If you think about it, the Romans wandered in. They did a thing with client states. What they did, and to be fair, a lot of people still do it to this day, was they weren't stupid enough to wage war against everybody. They would just choose the guys that were the main leaders, the tribal kings, and they would say, I tell you what, we want this, 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 and this, and in return we'll give you masses of wealth and our protection, or we'll just destroy you. It's kind of like the way the mafia worked, ironically, good old Italians, and it worked. And that's actually something that, I mean, that's just a classic. The Romans set all that stuff in motion. But it basically left, the country was very much dependent on the Romans at this point, and they were here for quite some hundreds of years. And when they left, the whole place just imploded, which left it wide open. There was internal warring factions, and of course the Danes invaded. You had the Saxons, the French came up through, and Britain's essentially been a land of invaded. We go on about Britain being great, but truthfully, there's very little of the original Britons left in the bloodstock. And then the interesting thing about the whole history side is that the Normans, who came in, as we know, invaded 1066. That's the formal date. That's the point where the Normans came in and had a good old, shindig with the Anglo-Saxons, and they won. And basically, we've been under the shadow of the Norman rule ever since. But what's interesting is that the Normans were actually descendants of the Vikings. So they got us in the end. The Norsemen, Normans, from the north, they settled in a northern part of France because they came in up the Rhine, and they were attacked France for years. And in the end, the French just said, look, tell you what, we'll give you the north of France. You can have all that. But that wasn't enough for them over the years. They at this point were already converted Christians anyway. And Christianity at this point was really a political stance. It was a good way to keep things kicking along. So they came in up the Rhine, they invaded, they were kicking around for a bit. The French said, look, tell you what, you can have the north. They got fed up with that, and they went over and invaded Britain in 1066, and they took it. And they've been here ever since. Well, they haven't been here ever since. Obviously, all sorts of stuff's happened, but they were the last of the big invaders. And they were descendants of the Vikings. So yeah, ultimately there's a heck of a lot of Viking blood in this country. Nothing wrong with that. I would actually be quite proud to think I had Danish blood. I think, let's put it a different way. They were never conquered. They kept their principles. They kept their gods right up to medieval times, the point where Christianity had pretty much become the de facto. So yeah, it's fascinating stuff. My ancestry isn't even actually pure English. My father's grandfather, it could have been his great grandfather, but certainly I think it was that. They came from Eastern Europe. I think it was Latvia. When I was a kid, everybody said they were from Russia, and then we did some ancestry stuff, and actually, no, it was more likely to be Poland. But the truth is that at the time, which was, mid-Victorian period, sort of mid-19th century, the whole of that area anyway was occupied, was part of what we now know as Russia. So it doesn't kind of matter. But anyway, they came to the UK, and they lived in London. And what I find fascinating is they lived in Whitechapel, which, if you guys know your history as far as Jack the Ripper's concerned, that was his manor. That's where he did his dastardly deeds. And so they were there at that time. That's the bit I find fascinating. I always say to people, at any point in history, there would have been one of your ancestors alive. There has to be, doesn't there? I mean, you couldn't be here today. It's a long, 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 long chain of ancestry. So any point in history, whether it was, the time of Pompeii or World War One or Neanderthals, whatever, there would have been a descendant, an ancestor of yours and mine alive. I think that's amazing. I've always had a love of history. And some of you might have spotted my tweets this week from my very proud dad tweets, because my eldest is up at university studying archaeology. I mean, what's fascinating is I never let on to my daughter that it was a thing that I was passionate about as a kid, but I was, and I found it so ironic that decades later that was a subject she chose. Anyway, she's on a real dig at the moment, a genuine dig. They're there for, I think, just under a month, and initially I think they thought they might, it's kind of an old Oh, I disappeared then for a second. Sorry about that. I think initially, look at that. I've still got, I've still got Lee's original question. Rat holes. They thought that they would find maybe an old burial, cremation or something, but they've actually found more than that. They've found some pottery, which I know is bland, but it nonetheless it dates the the period. And they found an old stone axe, which after looking at it in more detail, they think could even go back as far as Neanderthal times, which is amazing. We've all got a little bit of Neanderthal in us, by the way. There weren't many of them, and they died out, we think, about 30 to 50,000 years ago. Not that long ago, in truth. But there was a heck of a lot of interbreeding. And interestingly, although this isn't the case for Africans, a lot of this only really happened in Europe. But what's fascinating is that a gene that we picked up from our Neanderthal ancestors is actually a strong defense against the COVID virus, which is why people of African descent actually have more of an issue with the flu virus, period, because they don't have that gene, unless of course they've at some point married into Europe. So I mean, I think that's quite interesting as well. We've all got this teeny weeny bit of Neanderthal in us. I mean, it's a couple of percent, but that's how we pick up things. I mean, things like your lungs would have come from some kind of crossbreeding at some point with some little amoebic version of us. Yeah, no, it's all amazing stuff. The Northmen, that's right, my friend Alex. The Northmen, Normans. You see, that's where it comes from. Norsemen, the Norse. Happy Cloud Gamers from Norway, Norvège, and very much at that point, the whole of the sort of Scandinavian area was one territory. So now it's all divided up, but back then they were all, Ragnar. Yeah, see, Alex has been watching it. Yeah, it's great, isn't it, my friend? It's this and a couple of other shows passed me by, and I just sort of kept popping up, and I thought, I can't be bothered. But I watched the first series, and I loved it. For me, it's a more approachable Game of Thrones because it's based in, it's a romanticized, but it's based in history. And the truth is, the main character, Uhtred, was a character that's been written about in history. This guy actually existed, not doing the stuff he does in the show, of course, but he nonetheless did fight. It was constantly fighting against. He was renowned for his ability to keep the Danes out of his territory, up in Northumbria area, which is where it's set. And also, I was chuffed to pieces the other day in one of the episodes. They came down to my town, where I live, which is very old. We have a cathedral, which is, I don't know, 1,200 years old, maybe older, certainly post 1,000 years. So a lot of that stuff. We had the Romans lived here. At that point, it was known as Iscadum Noniorum, Isca, which I believe had something to do with the Britain word for river. We had Romans. We've had them all living here, even me, which is quite odd, really. Right. What else have we got going on, guys? You guys anything that any burning questions? Now that we've got King of Content in the building as well. How are you, Anthony? Good to see you, my friend. He is a cowboy. This is true. I don't know how much of a cowboy you are. Have you ever been on a horse, Anthony? One of my wife used to have a horse. When I first met her, this is quite a funny story, actually. I hope she's not listening. When I first met my wife, which was, 35 years ago, I think. I'll scroll back up. Thank you, Dave. And so when I first met my wife, I was dressed as a cowboy. It was a fancy dress, disco, Christmas Eve, I believe, or just coming up to Christmas Eve, and I was dressed as a cowboy. Actually, it's more like a card sharp, kind of thing. And so I met the wife down at the disco, and truth be told, she didn't have a fancy dress on, but I'm always up for a thing like that. But what she did tell me was that her dad had a building company construction company, and she had her own horse, and I thought, whoa, money. But yeah, it turned out not to be quite that grand. He actually did a bit of DIY on the side for old folk, and she did have a horse, but she, bless her little socks, worked 2 jobs to pay for that thing. Jigsaw, it was called, and we had Jigsaw as our kind of family horse right up until we think it was with us maybe for 6 or 7 years. And my wife had a really bad accident on the horse, actually. It bolted and fell and rolled over her and broke her legs, her hips. She's in a really bad way. But not one to complain, is she, to be fair. But what I really enjoyed was I got to muck out the horse every day and look after it. And I'll tell you what, and it was in the bleak midwinter. To look after a horse before you go to work, you've got to get down there for 4 or 5 in the morning. And not the sort of thing that I would expect me to enjoy, but boy, did I enjoy it. It was great fun. But yeah, Jigsaw the horse. And one of the nicest things that, as a shared memory, Anthony, was about 1995, we went on holiday and one of the places we went to was Hawaii. And we rode a horse each through one of the Dole pineapple plantations. I remember that well. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. But so I can ride a horse. I wouldn't say I stay on them for very long. But yeah, she's fine now, Alex. And she still gets shoulder issues. But yeah, she made a recovery. So Dave says, my daughter loves horses, and she was devastated when lockdown happened. Oh, bless her. Yeah, my daughters did that for a long time as well. I think my wife was secretly hoping they would get as passionate about them as she was, and that we'd end up getting one. I'm bleeding glad we didn't, because they're about 12 grand a year with all the fees and vet bills and food and everything else and stabling. Not to mention that the price of the horse. But it's a fantastic thing. If you've never done it, I would absolutely check out, if there's anywhere near you where you can go and just experience riding a horse for a couple of hours, maybe around a forest or moorland or along a beach. There's just something. When you get on the back of that horse, you can feel the chemistry. You can only imagine what it must have been like when that was the only mode of transport. And, people fall in love with their cars, and they have a kind of a car thing. But you imagine where your horse literally becomes your friend. It's more than a pet. Your day-to-day existence, whether it's working or travel, is completely dependent on that animal. So yeah, I mean, Dave's right. Horses, there is a special bond. You can't describe it, Dave, can you? Genuinely, it's like dogs as well. I mean, there's certain animals where it goes beyond a pet. They become literally part of you. It's an amazing thing. I totally agree with you. Funny enough, I spotted William further up in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. And we were talking the other day because William's dog Buckley was going in for a little operation on his paw, bless him. And we were saying, DMs, that and anybody that has dogs, and I know a lot of you do. I haven't had a dog for a long time, sadly, because my wife not into dogs. But growing up, I had a dog always. Labradors and Spaniels, Dobermans. I love dogs. But again, it's beyond description. The chemistry, the bond that you get, isn't there, with your dogs. Cats can be the same, although I find cats are beautiful animals, but they're, with exceptions, they are very solitary animals. They like to do their own thing, don't they? I always think they look at us as, their digs. I'm just going to go home, get some tea, pop it, say hi humans. Hope you had a good day. I'm just getting changed. I'm out to meet my mates on the tiles tonight. We're going to, just do the cat thing for a bit, chill out, and then I'll have a sleep tomorrow in the day. That's cats, isn't it? Obviously, it's like, talk about chill. Whereas dogs are like, where are we going today then? Come on, where are we going? I don't mind where we go. I just want to be with you guys. Yeah, let's do it together. It's a wholly different experience. It depends what you want out of your animals, I guess. I've had so many pets. Dave says it's weird how you said about your daughter taking up archaeology and you were a secret fan, isn't it? Horses are my favorite animal. There you go. And I've never really mentioned it, but Lexi loves them too. Yeah, there's a whole that nature nurture thing, Dave, isn't there? You know, do we pick up traits because subconsciously as parents we kind of let it out that we love a thing? But this is fascinating. I read about some research done. I think it was after. I think it was either after World War II, but it may even have been as old as World War One. I suspect it was later. And what they found was that people who had had ancestors who had fought in one of the two big wars had sort of psychological issues that you would expect from the trauma of being in those battles. And I'm talking about maybe a generation after, even where apparently those people had died and had never met their descendants. It's quite bizarre. And, I mean, it comes down to the whole spirituality thing, doesn't it? Ghosts and everything else. There's obviously a chain of thought that talks about this kind of universal consciousness. There was a big thing back along about asking the universe for something, and I guess, I mean, in a way, I suppose all global religions have a similar metaphor, don't they? Whether it's a monotheistic single god, as in Christianity or Judaism, which are all from the same root as well, of course, as Islam, Judaism, and Christianity from the same root, which is the shame of why we keep battling each other, because ultimately we've got the same religious background. And then, or a religion where there are multiple gods, as in India, there are lots of Indian religions. But the point is that they exist. There's an aspect to our psyches as animals that requires that belief. And whether you're religious, whether you're deeply religious, whether you worship or whether you just have a faith, I think the thing I love about people that have that is that it gives them something it gives them a strength, whether you want to believe it or not. And and it's not up to me to say whether somebody's religion is right or wrong. It really isn't. But the point is, it gives them a faith, and I think there's little, when you're on your own in life, and we all are ultimately, aren't we? We come in on our own pretty much. We certainly leave on our own, and knowing that there's something there to support you when you're feeling low, I think is a plus thing. Now, obviously, religion has been used for good and for bad, and it's a shame that that still happens to this day. Because I think people genuinely. I watched a thing. I tell you what I watched. I watched last night. I watched with my wife. Part of the university that my daughter goes to, they do these kind of webinar Zoom things. You can watch them. I mean, your name's on the screen, but you're not able to actually get your camera up or anything. And we saw a brilliant one a few months ago with Stephen Fry in. He was amazing, really lovely fella, as you would imagine he is. He genuinely is like that. But this one was about how you support your children through anxiety and stress, which was great. But one of the things that they said that the psychologists said was that universally children are not born evil unless there's something clinically wrong. A normal child, let's put it that way, is not born evil. That is very much a nurture thing. That is something that is hoisted upon the child as it develops. When they're young, though, they're not by nature. I mean, they might be needy. They might smash things because they want attention. Classic stuff. They may rant and rave because they're not getting what they want. But those are things we've all done that. Some of us still do, but they're not evil by nature. And it's a shame that culture imposes some nasty stuff on kids as they grow. And, if you think about I don't watch the news anymore. I don't know about you guys, and I don't know, as you look around the world, what the news is like. But when I stopped. I stopped watching the news really around Brexit in the UK because it was just consistently, incessantly negative. It wasn't nice. And then COVID has been horrible because it's been wall to wall pandemic. You cannot turn on the news without the first story, the second story, probably the third story, maybe even the fifth story, all around the pandemic. Now, the point is that is like Chinese water torture on us all, isn't it? We're constantly having drip, drip, negativity, drip, 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 doom, apocalypse. And it's no wonder that people are, desperate to tear off the masks and hug and do the opposite stuff that we know we should still be doing. Until, even to be fair, when we've had both jabs, we can still be asymptomatic. We can still carry the disease, even if we ourselves won't necessarily show symptoms. So we still have to be sensitive about it. But it's understandable, this constant negativity. But of course, the rates of suicides and mental illness has gone through the roof. I mean, it's if the first pandemic was the disease itself, I think the second one that we're going to have to deal with as a global society is the effect that it's going to have and has been having on our universal mental position. I think that's something that we're just going to have to be aware of. We're just going to have to support each other moving forward. I mean, there's a number of guys in the chat tonight. We've all talked about, where we've had or are having ongoing issues with our mental health. And I think most people, truthfully, will have a level of anxiety, and that kind of level of anxiety potentially heightened by things like what's going on in the world. And of course, the news, unless it's non-commercial, we're to a degree, we've got the BBC in the UK, but although it's non-commercial, and therefore it doesn't have to answer to shareholders, sadly, it does answer to the government in power of the day. So, you still have to question everything and the reasons behind some of the stories. But of course, commercial news, and I'm thinking about Fox as a classic example in the States, where bad news is a powerful revenue earner. So you have people like Tucker Carlson, making the most ludicrous claims about the fact that getting children to wear masks is child abuse, for example, was a classic Tucker Carlson. But when you have that constantly being drilled into your psyche, and I mean, I don't know about you, my folks, my mum and dad, they live in a caravan essentially, on an old park. As a lot of old people do, sell their house and get them downsized. And I go around there to get my hair cut because my mum used to be a hairdresser, and the TV's on in the corner, and it's the news, and it's on all the time. Now, whether they're sat there watching it or not, it's on all the time, and it's constantly going into their ears and having an effect. And that's got to be the same for all of us. Of course, that's now been magnified by an unbelievable amount with social media, because it's gone from, at least when it was an editorial piece, you could look at it somewhat with a critical eye and say, yeah, but that channel is Fox, we know that's got it, and we know it's owned by the Murdochs, we know their position is right wing. If that's your thing, then brilliant. If it's not, I know not to watch it. Social media is word of mouth from people you trust. Whether they're passing on some tiny snippet of information that they've picked up, that they've heard along the way, and embellished it with their own thoughts, you are socially inclined to hear what they say, understand it, and regurgitate it. And there is no, Facebook, as we all know, is, as far as it is concerned, the more the merrier, because it's all about data. It's all about eyeballs. They have always taken the Star Trek amendment. No, we don't get involved with alien species. We stand back and let them do their thing. But in the meantime, and certainly over the last 10 years, it's been like an acid. I mean, there are literally cultures around the world where Facebook has been used to whip up violence against those cultures in various countries. And then in other countries, it's been used for political gain and still is to this day. I think it's a real shame, that we just had an election this week in the UK. We were electing our county council, in some places our local council, because of the way it works, and then in some places also the sort of chief of police in our area. Now, whoever wins, wins. That's fantastic. It's a democracy. That's how it should be, right? Except less than 30% of people eligible to vote got off their asses and voted. How can that be a democratic decision? Essentially, what you have is a vote of those that could be bothered versus those that couldn't. And yet the ones that couldn't will be affected by those that either had the time or the political knowledge or the inclination, the drive, whatever. And so, where is the democracy in that? It's democracy in name alone. It isn't in action. And a lot of that comes from social media saying, I'm not going to bother to vote. Why should I? Nothing ever happens for me. I don't get this, that, and the other. And it's such a shame, such a shame. Anyway, get a little wee bit political there. So I'm just going to pick up on some of the stuff. There's been some great chat while I've been chatting to you. Shout out to Mental Health Week. Yeah, absolutely. This week, you're right, RJ, it has been Mental Health Awareness Week. Look, you know what? We don't need a week, do we, to be aware of mental health issues? I mean, it should just be something that we are constantly aware of. There's a gorgeous, gorgeous, huge building. I think it's about 17th century, near where I live. And it was one of the first true hospitals to treat patients with mental conditions that fell out of World War One, because it was really and truthfully, before then, mental health was, you would brush it under the carpet. It was there was no real treatment for some of the even some of the minor mental health issues. So you'd all be put into an institution and the doors locked behind, and some of the worst horror stories and horror films of all time have come out of those kinds of activities. And we've all heard the phrase bedlam. It's bedlam in here. Well, Bedlam was a mental institution in London. And you know what was really sad about Bedlam was that for a penny, you could have a look around, like a zoo, like a form of entertainment. And you can only imagine what it was like. But anyway, after World War One, where, of course, a vast amount of very young men met either a grisly end. And I was only saying this to the wife last night. We were watching Call the Midwife, and there was a youngish woman, I mean, in her 50s, and a husband who was maybe 20 years older. And, of course, after the two great wars, certainly World War One, there was a huge drop-off in eligible young men because they'd all been killed. So what happened was the young women that were left ended up marrying older men who were too old to go to war, or, maybe were medically discharged or whatever. So you saw a lot of that. But the point I'm making is that it was the first time really that the treatment of the mentally ill was taken seriously, because you had truckloads of guys coming back with post-traumatic stress. This was butchery on an industrial scale. We're not talking about a couple of guys in a trench having fisticuffs. They invented the machine. The machine gun hadn't been invented at this point, but it became part of the arsenal of war. And you are firing hundreds of rounds of bullets, chopping people up by a sea of bullets. And you're 15, well, you're not, you're 16, 17, 18 years old. You've only just come out of school or working in the fields, and boom, your mates, four of your mates beside you just lost a head, an arm, a torso, completely beyond any kind of rational thought for a normal human being. So those guys came back completely mentally scarred, let alone physically scarred. Bucket loads, trench loads of them, literally truckloads. And so they had to take the treatment of those guys seriously. And it's amazing to watch. There's some, I think they're probably on YouTube actually. There's some amazing video footage, particularly out of that hospital, which is only up the road from here, is on the way to Torbay, where they did a lot of the pioneering work, which is now what is largely used, the basis of creating the basis of what we now largely use to treat people with extreme anxieties and stresses and depressions, because of the work that those guys did. One of the only good things really to come out of that war. There's nothing great about either of those two wars. But yeah, so mental health shouldn't just be about a week, should it, really? You know, I mean, it should be, just like I always say, Mother's Day. It's nice, have your mum round. But if that was the first time you've seen your mum in 6 months, shame on you. You shouldn't have to have a special day to make your mum a dinner, tell her how much you love her. You should be doing that every day. That woman brought you into the world. You wouldn't exist today if it wasn't for that woman. You know, you shouldn't need a special day for that. I tell you who, you've got to think about this. Easter, Mother's Day, Christmas Day, Valentine's Day. Do you know where those come from? And obviously some of them were religious holidays, and they had, you know, originally they had purpose. So you had time to go to church and so on. The reality is they've been hijacked by high street, by retailers. Now all they are is just another way to generate a bit dosh. So, you know, don't get sucked into it, guys. I always say to my wife, Valentine's Day, I told you yesterday I love you. If you want me to buy you some chocolates, I'll buy you chocolates any day of the week. But you don't need a special day to know that. And anyway, it's supposed to be from people you don't know, isn't it? How old were you when you grew your first proper bum fluff? Do you mean on my bum, or this bum fluffish stuff around my face? I don't grow a decent beard. I agree with you there. But if I don't have anything, I get this pelican neck, Noel Edmonds like, which I'm not happy with. I started growing a beard before it became really fashionable, and by that I mean over the last 8 or 9 years. You know, most men now have a beard, don't they? And I started growing one before that, because we have a thing, actually it's global now, Movember, where the idea is you grow a moustache for charity, and you raise money, you grow a moustache, you get sponsored for it. It's a bit silly, really. But I grew one for that. But I decided I would do the beard at the same time because I'd never had one. Quite fancied it. So that was when I first tried out the old bum fluff, as you call it, Eli. But I had hairy legs when I was at school. I always remember being the envy of the young lads there. They would all go, oh, look at him with his long, hairy legs. Oh, I wonder whatever happened to them. Yeah, everybody has one, Alex. I know you've got your own in Wales. Obviously, Ireland have got them. Scotland have got St Andrew's Day. Yes. Noel Edmonds used to live up the road from. Met him once. The smallest man you've ever met in your life. Well, maybe not, but he's such a little fella. Such a little fella. And yeah, he was actually a reasonably good friend of a very good friend of mine. My very good friend knows everybody. I mean, if you're into boxing, he knew all the big promoters, and he's an amazing guy. I love him to pieces. He's been one of my long-term. Actually, we met. He was already incredibly wealthy anyway, because his family had a big business which they'd sold to a big company. But he was bored, so when we first met, I took him on as an account manager in my business, and he would pull up in an exotic sports car, and I'd pull up beside him in my little Ford Mondeo. but he's the most genuine, lovely guy, and we've been huge friends ever since. I speak to him almost daily. Love the guy. But he's in his 70s. I don't know about you. Most of my friends in my life have always been older than me. My true friends. I've always enjoyed the company of people that have been there, done it. I've got something to say about it as well. Talking of which, I've got something to tell you guys in a second. Now, Dave, you miles ago, you said you had a question, and Oh no, look, Lee's upset his son. It was his birthday the other day, Lee. You can't do that. He was in bits. I accidentally fell off a high ledge in Minecraft into an endless pit. Oh no, I died and lost all his inventory. Oh, bless him, Dad. You can't. Oh no. I bet he was inconsolable. Wow. Oh. But there you go. There's one of the first lessons in life. Easy come, easy go, isn't it, huh? Digital stuff has no value but your pride. Great to see you, Jem, by the way. Thanks for popping in. It's yeah, always an absolute pleasure, my friend. Now, I've just got to find this question that Dave said a ways back. Was it the PS Now question, Dave, that I spotted? It was a long time back, I know. We'll get there. I'm just annoyed still that you guys can't see the chat going down. I was really, because that makes it so much easier for me. I can see what you're all saying. No, sorry, Dave. You maybe ask it again, my friend. Oh, thank you, Jem. It's very kind of you, my friend. It's one of my only. It's one of my only traits is that voice. It's funny, you know, because I remember many years ago. My wife and I had a friend, Claire, who sadly died of cancer, aged, I don't know, early 40s. Gorgeous girl on every level. She really was my wife's best friend and beautiful lady. But she used to say to me how whenever I found out, she worked at an insurance firm, and she used to say to me, "Oh, the girls love it when you call in on the phone. They all try to, oh, God, I want to take it on. Hello? Oh, hello, yes. Just phoning about my insurance. Oh, yes. Have you played, oh, here we go. Thanks, Dave. So Dave says, have you played or used PS Now? And what do you think of the shocking lag time? I never, zero lag, honestly. A genuine question. You've had lag with it. So I think no, I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I've not had any lag at all. I do have it, by the way. I've subscribed to it for some time. And I do play games on it occasionally. The problem I have with it, Dave, is most of the games that I would want to play on it, I've already played when I used to do the game rental thing with my PlayStation. So I'm struggling to find stuff on there, but no, yeah. So I can honestly say that I have had no lag. Just out of interest, was the game you were playing, Dave? Was it a game that came out on the PS4, or was it older? Because one of the things they do, which might be the answer to your point, is they use a board from the original chipset of whichever computer it is, whichever console it is. Okay, so it was Last of Us PS3. They did a remake of it on the PS4, didn't they? A remaster version. See if you can play that one. What I have found is the older games, PS3, PS2, I think it's as far back as it goes, that you can have issues with those because they're being served up by dodgy old tech. But the newer stuff, certainly the PS4 stuff, is really good. And although the original PS3, the original Last of Us, sorry, was PS3, they remastered it and brought it out on PS4. So if they have it on there, I would recommend you play that. Or, out of interest, go and play something like what they got on there recently, Horizon Zero Dawn. Is that on PS Now? I think it is. Try one of the newer PS4 titles and see if you can see a difference. That I think the ultimate goal is that they will, like Xbox, is to move to PS5, and of course with PS5 they will be able to do a lot of emulation of the older games as well. I think I might be talking out my little PS there on my own note. Any road up. No, I promise you, no lag. Out of interest, I will play Last of Us on PS. I'll stream it, Dave, and I'll let you know how I find it, because it may well be that it's not. You know, it is the fact that it's that older game. But I certainly haven't. Everything I've played, to be fair with you, mate, streamed it from PS. Has been absolutely brilliant. So everything. Okay, so Dave says he's been a PS Now member for 3 years. Cool. So I'm teaching you to suck eggs, beg your pudding. Never had a problem, and now I'm using the desktop app. Okay. the desk. So there's your answer, I guess. Is that you using the PS Now desktop app, or is it you using the PlayStation? What's it called? I've got it down here. In fact, I accidentally launched it. PS Remote Play. I can't remember if you can play PS Now on the Remote Play app, actually. But it could. It sounds to me like it's more to do with that particular app than PS Now, mate, if I'm honest. No, I'm streaming it. I know. But any road up, I would. Have you tried it on the PlayStation itself? Have you tried the Last of Us on your PlayStation? See if you get the same issues. If you don't, then it's the desktop app, isn't it? Don't use it. That's I don't like being tethered to my desk. That's why cloud really works for me, because I want to sit down in. You can see that chair over my shoulder there. That's my garage gaming chair, and then on the other side I've got a Sony 4K TV, and I even use Moonlight Becomes You to stream games from the PC, which is right next to the chair, onto that TV, because I prefer that than sitting here on the chair and right up against the screen and using the mouse and keyboard and stuff. Weird. Oh, it's definitely the app then, Dave. If you've tested it on the old PlayStation, mate, 100%. Yeah, I can't profess to have used the desktop app, but equally, I found issues with the Xbox game streaming app, desktop app for PC as well. Initially, they did actually pick up their game a bit, but yeah, I had a bit of that going on as well. Right. So, any last requests, ladies and gentlemen? Anything that you want to ask this old head? You're growing yours, are you, Alex? Your beard? Oh, well, look, mate, some people have no problem with it. They get big old bushy fellas going on, but I've never been able to do that. And also, it gets uncomfortable, doesn't it? I don't like all that discomfort stuff. We're all different, yeah, some people have hair on their heads and others don't. This is all real, and it's genuinely this colour as well, which I'm proud of for a man of my age. I was at a funeral, as some of you will know, earlier in the week, of one of my dad's brothers, and one of his other brothers, because although there's a few of them gone now, I'll just cue this one up, Jem. Although there's a few of them gone now, bless them. There was one of my uncles, Uncle Paul, in fact, who, I remember when I was a kid, he had strawberry blonde hair, but now white as a sheet, as is my dad's hair. And as I came along with my mask on, he went, "What's going on with your hair?" I said, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "Well, look at your dad's hair. It's white. Are you dyeing your hair?" I said, "No, I genuinely don't." The lucky thing is that my mum, being my family hairdresser, knows my hair intimately. So I always shout, Mum, come and tell him it's real." "No, it's all his real hair, you know." Oh, dearie dear. Question, says Jem. Which game do you want the most to come to Stadia? Yeah, that is a good question, isn't it? Now, there are those that will want games that they want to play ongoing, like Fortnite and Apex and even Minecraft, games that kind of the kind of PvP forever games, and the NEGS games, which I came up with earlier, the never-ending gobstopper games, which I created a Wikipedia page. Hang on, I'll pull this up. I've got it here somewhere. I just don't know how to actually make it an official one. Hang on, don't go anywhere. Here it is. Look, original rock, right? And it says, a NEGS game is an acronym for Never Ending Gobstopper Game. The origin of Never Ending Gobstopper is from the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, whose real name was Ronald, by the way. How pretentious to drop an N out of your name. And describes a sweet that never ends, no matter how hard you suck. This metaphor has been applied to video games in this context, where there is no end, and instead the developer continuously adds content to keep players playing. Other aspects of this may be that the game is free to play, and revenue is generated from the sale in-game of virtual goods. And then the term NEGS game to apply to this sort of a video game was originally posted on Twitter by user Rock Show. I mean, look, if I wasn't going to do it, nobody would. And I thought I'm going to stake my territory. Getting back to your original question, Jem. So, not being much of a PvP kind of guy, those games don't really do it for me. So I'm not that fussed about Rainbow Six or Rogue, this, that, and the other, and Call of Duty and stuff. Done Fortnite, don't care. And the games that I've always wanted to play, I've played. Some of my favorite games, like Horizon Zero Dawn, of course, PlayStation only. Even the new one that's coming up soon, I hope. That's going to be, it's exclusive. I'd love to see Death Stranding come along because I loved that game. Loved it. I will. I'll add it to Urban Dictionary. Thanks, Jem. Good shout. Yes. Why not? Negs. I love Death Stranding. I think it's a great game. I thought for so long it was going to come because of the relationship between Jake Raymond and Kiwajima, but it never did. It never materialized, sadly. So that's a game. There's also some really, really brilliant indie games, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Love that game. I've said it so many times. Hellblade, another fantastic game. Interestingly enough, about mental issues as well, which is a really brave topic to take on in a game. I think they did a cracking job of that. So yes, those would probably be them. But I mean, truthfully, I would just love to see the bigger games, the kind of, the crowd pulling games doing a day and date, whatever they are, whether they're ones I would play or not, it's kind of irrelevant really. It would just be nice to see that happen. Thank you for that one, my friend. Dave says, Dave's really throwing them at me today. Thanks, mate. Did you know, where are we? Did you know that the streaming PS now via OBS freezes the stream? I wouldn't be surprised. You have to play the game watching it through the OBS studio. No, I wouldn't be surprised at all, my friend. I've been having massive issues the last week with trying out some streaming stuff. So much so that I bought a new PC. Not that there's anything wrong with this one, but I'm going to use this one as my encoding machine, and then a separate one for doing all the game stuff that I've got planned for the future. Very quickly, a couple of things actually before I let you folks go. So some news about my channel, and some news and update on that esports ambassador thing that you guys that watched the last What's Up Rokk I mentioned, that Exeter College have asked me to be an ambassador for their esports courses that they're doing, BTEC courses. Anyway, I had a meeting with them yesterday, and it's massive. I mean, it's vastly bigger than I thought it would be. We're talking serious investment. They have a big opening coming up in June, I think. There'll be all sorts of folk involved. They still want me to be, Jem, it's literally what I'm saying. So I'll pull it up on screen and show you, although this is all subject to change. Hang on a second, my friend. Type it in. So Exeter College is one of the largest further educational establishments in the UK, and I've worked with them on and off for a number of years. One, I was an alumni there. I'm kind of well known in my area for my business stuff anyway, getting involved with promoting the city. I'm a Devon ambassador as well, by the way, folks. I've been wheeled out before. I was one of them wheeled out to bring the Met Office down here, do a sales job on them. But they got in touch with me because I'd worked with them with the kids in business stuff, so Entrepreneurs Academy and what have you. And they said, look, it's actually a vice principal who I've known for quite some years. He said, Adam, he calls me by my name. He said, years and years ago, you were telling me it was going to be that the future was all in gaming, and, that we really need to be thinking about this from the college's perspective. He said, well, we've got there. We've just invested X 0.0000000 into a new building. We've got a BTEC. They're talking with big esports organizations about getting affiliation. They've got 6 esports teams. But the important thing is it's more of a course about the business of esport than it is being an esports player or being competing. So in other words, anybody with an interest in gaming and business, you'll get marketing, you'll get finance, you'll get some confidence building stuff out of this. And the other thing is it's only open to 18 plus. They felt, and I think it's quite a good decision, what they didn't want to do was appeal to younger kids who were just thinking, great, I love gaming, I'll go and do that, and not take it as seriously as they really want it to be taken. So they wanted me, bless them. They asked me if I'd be an ambassador because obviously I'm into gaming and also I've got a business, so they can connect the two together. But it's going to be a big launch coming up in June. They're going to have some celebrities, I'm told, as well as I've got to be very careful because I am sworn to secrecy. I've already told you way too much. I don't care. Some stuff is happening in June, and I'm going to be there to open this new building, which is going to be something else. And then I'll be doing stuff that I love, like mentoring, going and talking about things like creating a YouTube channel, for example, which is one of the modules that they'll be doing. And I'm really hoping as well that it'll open doors with some other opportunities that I can bring to my channel, for example. So watch this space. And while we're on the old channel, so I've decided that I'm going to pull back a bit from doing the collab stuff. What I want to do is do a bit more pre-recorded. So I've got a couple of things I'm going to do there. I'm going to sit back a bit from, for example, I'm going to take Cloudburst off the table for a bit. Another show that I have planned, I've talked to them today and said, actually, guys, I think I'm going to take a step back. I need to do more solo stuff because I'm kind of finally getting to the point of confidence. The reason that I haven't done it until now is I just haven't been confident to sit here in front of a camera and feel that I've got anything worthwhile to tell you. But I'm told by people that I should do more of that. So thank you very much, guys, for your support and encouragement. So I'm going to. Rock Review will carry on. And I'm not going to do this every week, What's Up Rock. I said this the last time, which I think was 2 weeks ago. It's going to be an occasional thing. But you're going to see some new pre-record stuff, which I'm quite excited about, actually. I don't think anybody else is doing it in the way that I want to do it. It won't be, this one particular show will not be around gaming at all, although it touches on it-ish. So yeah, it's going to be good. Honestly, I think you're going to enjoy it. Even if you watch me because of the stuff that the Stadia stuff, I think you'll enjoy what I'm planning to do as well. And I'm also hoping to bring back Rock Around the Clock, although not on a daily basis because that killed me, but maybe twice a week or even once a week with a kind of update of news, but pre-recorded. Because I can put more professionalism into it, to be fair. And to be honest with you, if I'm going to do it, I need to put the research in and not just sit here and fumble and forget stuff and rely upon other people that are no longer sat beside me. But I have to say, big shout out to Duncan, who has been a massive support behind the scenes. He comes up for a lot of stick, Duncan, and I think 99% of it completely unjustified. He actually is a lovely guy, and he and I spent many hours this week talking, him supporting me and giving me honest feedback. I guess I'm feeling a little bit emotional, I have to say. It's a big change, but Duncan gets a lot of crap it does not deserve. And he's doing some great stuff of his own anyway. I think you're going to see some changes in the future there, and God bless him. That's all I can say. But look, it's 15 minutes past the hour. The music has ended. I think my money's run out. It's been an absolute joy, as always, to sit here and talk. But more importantly, to have you lovely people join me. I really do appreciate your time and and your support and your lovely words as well. It really means the whole wide world to me. So that's what's been up for Rock this week, and I really appreciate sharing it with you guys. Rock review back next week, and I've got Caleb joining us next week, which will be really good. And then I may or may not be in a position to tell you a bit more about my other stuff. It depends if I can get it to a point where I feel quite confident with it, which may or may not be in the near future. But I'll come and do another one of these. And if anybody wants, I nearly forgot. You will see me tomorrow because I am hosting the GSN podcast. Avery can't make it tomorrow, so I'm going to be the host for the first time ever of the GSN podcast. And Stadia Vet Gaming is going to be our guest. So you already know where it's going to go, don't you? If you remember Flangegate, no, I'll be good. I'll be on my best behaviour, I promise. I can't vouch for Erin, but I will be, I promise you that. But that's tomorrow at 10 p.m. UK time. So if you do make it along, that'll be really appreciated. It'd be lovely to see you guys there. Once again, thank you all for coming along tonight. Thank you for your questions. Dave, thanks. You've been on the money tonight, my friend. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. And we'll speak again soon, I hope. Send my love to your mum. Give her a call. Tell her how much you love her. I will see you all soon. Take care, guys. Oh, hang on. Before I do that, I was told to do something by the lady what runs this here, but you can't, lady, what runs this here, because it ain't there to be done. You going, what is he talking about? Don't worry, it's all right, I've got it covered. I'll speak to you guys.